How's it going, people? Sam and Slabby here, and this is the 4.1 episode of Runescape lore. Last episode we covered the entirety of the Second Age, kind of like in an overview way. We didn't go into any specifics, but you do get the general idea of what happened during this time. This episode will be focusing on Zaros, one of the main players during the Second Age. Zaros is the god of control and fate. He was once the second most powerful of the young gods, surpassed only by the now deceased Guthics. His history prior to entering Gielinor is actually unknown. He is, however, known to be currently the most powerful god in existence. So powerful, in fact, to the point where other gods such as Zaros fear him. For these reasons, he's earned names such as the God of Unknown Power. Since these names were also created by creatures who didn't follow Zaros, since merely saying Zaros was said to give him power. His ways are generally characterized as Machiavellian, or empty, evil and manipulative. His arrival in Gielinor was one of the most important events during the Second Age, as during this time he ended up conquering the vast majority of Gielinor itself. Very few present-day Zaros and Zamorakians who possess knowledge of Zaros consider him an adversary. Specifically, the wise old man becomes furious when you mention Zaros' name. Others, like certain inhabitants of the Caridian Desert and some Marjara, still worship Zaros to this day. There is currently no indication as to Zaros' motives other than that we ourselves may actually be involved in his plans. Zaros such as Lanissa have claimed that evil will always breed more evil, and will never be satisfied with what it has. The Empty Lord has to ally himself with the dark creatures of this world, fully aware that their own natures could cause them to rally against his rule and take every opportunity they could to betray him. However, Zaros himself isn't actually evil. Although many people have construed that he's evil, but at the same time many say he's actually good. In actuality though, Zaros is simply an immensely manipulative being, and quite happily makes use of anything at his fingertips. Zaros is a manipulative god who in turn holds his status as one who is neither good nor evil, but is simply manipulative, immensely powerful, and empty. The reason for this is a good reference to why he is now known as the Empty Lord. It was further resolved that he is the god of control in a Machiavellian kind of way, and that Jagex are all certain of his alignment. The mods themselves of Jagex actually do agree with the fact that Zaros is neither good nor evil, simply an immensely manipulative god who kind of does whatever he wants, whatever way possible. So, now that you know about Zaros, his general way, and some background information on him, it's time to move on to what he actually did during the Second Age. At this point, this was the first time Gielinor had even heard the name Zaros, and he wasn't the only god to come through. Zaros' conquest during the Second Age was incredibly well documented. It's described in many lore books found throughout Gielinor, but very few texts or references of Zaros exist to this day. This is largely due to collaborative effort by several of the active gods during the Third Age to wipe all knowledge of Zaros from Gielinor. As such, only fragmented references to his powers and activities have been recorded from a small number of reliable resources, and even fewer as to his alignment or intentions, leading Zaros to remain as quite the enigma. So, what did Zaros do during the Second Age? Well, first things first. Upon arriving within Gielinor, he explored the lands and came to build his kingdom. He started to build his kingdom at Sentiston, which is now known as the dig site. The reason for this, or why it's believed at least, is the Temple of Sentiston can actually be found below the dig site itself, and as the dig site is simply an archaeological area, it's believed that the city of Sentiston may very well have stood there and has now become today's Zamorak. Upon arrival, he set up his base, started to gather immense followings from different creatures from all around the lands. These included many evil type creatures such as demons, vampires, hellhounds, blood reavers, the Majora themselves eventually, and human races which make up the vast majority of his army as mages, rangers and warriors. He has many followers, one of which are the Dragon Riders, an immensely powerful race of humanoids who mounted dragons and are now confirmed to be extinct after the wars of the Second Age. Upon arriving in Sentistan and setting up his foundation, Zaros began to annex the surrounding areas and started to gain mass control around the Misthalin area as well as Asgarnia. After he'd finally secured his reign, he then took it upon himself to declare war upon the Desert Pantheon, and through an immense battle with the Desert Pantheon and himself, ended up taking control of the entire northern sector of the Caridian Desert. At this point, the war against the Desert Pantheon was near enough won. They could not stand up against Zaros. So, Zaros decided to take his attacks elsewhere and started to move towards the north. So, at this point, Zaros began moving north of his annexed region and started to attack the Farinthi region, which is now known today as the Wilderness. At this time during the Second Age, the Wilderness was not a barren wasteland. In fact, there was many fortresses laid about the place. So Zaros took his armies and started to attack. At some point during this time, whether it was as he entered Gielinor or after his conquest of the Desert Pantheon, it's known that Zaros discovered the race known as the Dragon Riders, in a realm very different from Gielinor, both geologically and culturally. It's a peaceful world with no need for conflict. Eventually, after some time observing them, Zaros came before the Dragon Riders, who he had learned had suffered infertility for some decades, and gave them a proposition. This proposition was an offer to allow the entirety of the Dragon Riders to regain their fertility and stop playing nanny to the beasts around them and have their children come to existence finally. Upon hearing this proposition, the Dragon Riders, with the prospect of returning their childbearing to their race, accepted the Empty Lord's offer and accompanied him to Gielinor through a portal, which, after checking through the book The Last Riders, leads me to believe that that is now known as the King Black Dragon's lair. The Dragon Riders quickly adapted to the ways of their new world, learning concepts of combat, war, betrayal, loyalty and lies, and over time proved to be immensely formidable soldiers for the Empty Lord, becoming feared by Zaros' enemies. Yet despite this, Zaros did not deliver on his original promise, and with their infertility still an issue, the Dragon Riders' numbers were eventually depleted, never to increase again, until in the end only 5 of them remained. These 5 were Hanabus, Morvenon, Aprobus, Balustan, and Ablengian. After his arrival, Zaros persuaded the Majora, a powerful race of near immortals, to join his forces. This, however, was after Scarbrus and Ixthlarin and the Desert Pantheon summoned the Majora to help them fight back against the Zarosian Empire. In fact, the Majora had taken back the northern part of the Caridian Desert by the time Zaros has actually taken care of the Farinthi sites. It was at this point that the Majora actually came to Zaros and joined him. At this point, with the Majora in hand, Zaros' empire is now immensely powerful. Zaros had taken entire control over at least a third of Gielinor at this point. He owned the entirety of the Farinthi region, the entirety of Misthalin, large chunks of Asgarnia, and even a large chunk of the Caridian Desert. But what was to happen next would blindside Zaros and shake the vast power of the Zarosian Empire. The betrayal of Zamorak. Zamorak was the most powerful Majora general in Zaros' service. He wanted to usurp Zaros' leadership of his vast empire and the Majora. when Zamorak by chance got hold of the Staff of Armadyl. The Staff of Armadyl came to his hands when one of Saradomin's followers actually found it, upon which that follower was attacked by a simple thief. The thief then wanted to sell it to Zaros for vast gold, gave it to one of Zaros' messengers. However, little did he know that Zaros' messengers that he gave it to would then take it to Zamorak. While this was happening, one of the Saradominus spies speaks to a general and tells him about the Staff of Armadyl and now that it lies in Zamorak's hands, at which point, instead of telling Saradomin himself, the leader decided to enchant the Staff of Armadyl in hopes that it would kill off Zaros, the feared enemy of Gielinor. So, with the now powered up Staff of Armadyl in Zamorak's hand, he decided to make his move. With his close Majara followers, Azil and Zamorak, as well as the vampire Lord Draken and others, he plotted Zaros' downfall. His allies would engage Zaros' bodyguards while Zamorak fought for the Liege. 1 week before his plan was executed, Zamorak approached the 5 remaining Dragon Riders and gave them an offer. The offer was that he would provide them with what Zaros could not deliver, in exchange for 2 of their number joining him as personal bodyguards. Morvenon and Apropos agreed to the deal, believing that if they helped Zamorak take Zaros' place as a god, he would cure their infertility, as it was long overdue. Zamorak, accompanied by his loyal followers, many of the Majara, vampires and demons, and a human by the name of Vigora, set out to attack Zaros in his throne room. Whilst the followers of Zamorak distracted the guards, Zamorak fought Zaros and managed to stab him in the back with the Staff of Armadyl. This weakened Zaros, but he still seemed to be much more powerful than Zamorak. With the staff still impaled in his back, Zaros seized Zamorak by the throat, lifts him into the air. Zamorak would have been killed, but due to the stab of the Staff of Armadyl in his back, Zaros loses his footing and stumbles and falls back onto the staff. After that, the Staff of Armadyl crossed Zaros' body and impaled Zamorak at the same time. Unexpectedly though, it acted as a conduit that transferred Zaros' divine power to Zamorak. To survive, Zaros leaves his body and moves into his spirit form, vanishing from Gielinor to then appear in a very distant dimension. For usurping a god, Zamorak was banished from Gielinor. However, according to information, he somehow obtained the Stone of Jazz and returned to Gielinor as a god. At Zamorak's return, most of Zaros' followers abandoned their original god and sided with Zamorak or joined the desert gods. There were notable exceptions, however, including the fortress city of Padewa and the magnificent capital of Zaros' empire, Sentistan. Currently, Zaros is looking for a host body and mobilizing plans for Gielinor to then return and have his vengeance. According to Vigora,
the Empty Lord was a powerful god, stronger than any of the others awake at the time, possibly even as strong as Guthix. And Zamorak was but a mortal. A Majara warrior all the same, with all of the strength and power that entails, but mortal nonetheless. But to see him fight, you would not think of him as a mere anything. He was war itself. Flurry after flurry of bows. He rained upon the Empty Lord, and the very castle walls shook and quivered with their power. But the Empty Lord would not fall. Even with the weapon of a god embedded in his back, he fought on, and with each blow our victory seemed less and less certain.
Zaros, upon being impaled by the staff, and changing into his corporeal form and leaving the realm of Gielinor, uttered a curse, called the Death Curse of the Empty Lord, upon all those involved in the rebellion. The curse was to make them wander around Gielinor as ghosts for eternity. The following 6 people were affected by the curse. Valdez, the Saradominist explorer that discovered the Staff of Armadyl. Renard, the thief that stole the staff from Valdez and in turn sells it to Karim, who was also cursed. The Zamorakian messenger, posing as a Zarosian messenger. Additionally, Lanissa, the Saradominist spy who informed the superiors of the staff's whereabouts, told the Dalek, another ghost, about what was happening, and Dalek, taking it upon himself to enchant the staff rather than inform his master. And also Vigora was also cursed, as he decided to side with Zamorak and go against Zaros. Zamorak and his followers were also targeted by Zaros' curse. However, General Vigora, during the Curse of the Zaros minigame, or mini-quest, explains that the curse that left him, as well as the other humans involved in the Curse of Zaros, is called the Death Curse of the Empty Lord. He also speculated that the reason only the humans involved in the Curse of Zaros were cursed is simply because the other creatures who were involved had such long lifespans that the Death Curse of the Empty Lord might not immediately affect them. Furthermore, Vigora states,
If it was not his death curse, then he is still alive, but not in this world. Then the only way to break it may be to bring him back here. But I would rather stay here cursed than suffer under his rule again.
Which means that when Zaros returns, the curse could very well be broken. The remaining followers of Zaros were actively hunted by followers of both Saradomin and Zamorak. However, Zamorak soon turned against Saradomin and the other gods, starting the God Wars. Even during the God Wars of the Third Age, when Zamorak battled with the other gods, he occasionally joined forces with Saradomin to fight off the remaining followers of Zaros. The Dragon Riders that Zamorak had enlisted, Morvenon and Apropos, were branded traitors by Zamorak's other followers, and were eventually hunted and killed by his vampire allies and hellhounds. At the same time, those who remained loyal to the Empty Lord, Balutzan and Ablenkian, were also labelled traitors by Zarosian followers and were slain by a number of Ripper demons, still loyal to the Lord. Only one Dragon Rider remained at this point, Hannibus. And Hannibus had to escape. To do so, he ended up escaping to the cave in which his race had first stepped foot on Gielinor. That cave is believed to be the King Black Dragon's cave. So, it could very well be that Hannibus himself actually became the King Black Dragon. Before the God Wars during the Third Age, some Saradominists attempted to wipe the memory of Zaros from Gielinor. The Saradominists locked away a group of Zarosians, including Nex, in a dungeon close to the present-day God Wars dungeon. It's revealed in the Zarosian Book of the Gods that the followers of Zaros believed he intended for his empire at Sentistan to fall after his demise, and it was part of his great plan. In addition, he believed he is in his shadow realm, waiting to return. Until the end, they realize Zaros is truly gone, as one of their followers says, "Our Lord has forsaken us." During the Temple of Sentistan, the players collect 3 items to give to Dr. Navanik, also known as Azanadra. He uses these items to contact Zaros. This creates a connection between the temple and the plane where Zaros is located, allowing speech. This connection is only the start of what may happen when Zaros is fully reborn, as shown in a cutscene received at that time. The cutscene shows the Dark Mage's portal going crazy, in fact almost destroying the universe according to the mage, but the mage thankfully manages to control it. It also shows an earthquake which cracks a Zamorak statue at the captured temple. The monks of Zamorak are furious and suspect it is the Saradominist's fault. This manifestation of power appears to have violated the Edicts of Guthix, which prohibits all other gods from directly interfering with Gielinor. If this was indeed a violation, it is not known whether it was intentionally in violation of the edicts, as the edicts were proclaimed during the God Wars of the Third Age, long after Zaros had disappeared from the plane of Gielinor, which makes you believe that Zaros may in fact not be affected by the edict. But that isn't actually correct. During the World Wakes and the Origins of Gielinor video, it's confirmed that all young major gods, even those who were not at Gielinor during the time, were affected by Guthix's edicts. In 2013 being the year of the gods and the 6th age being started, Zaros is beginning to emerge once more, with updates such as the demon flash mobs, where his demons are supposedly gathering power for a mysterious cause. Furthermore, after restoring Karshai's memories, he notes that Zaros' power is stronger than it has been in a long time. With the release of the god emissaries, Soren, the emissary of Zaros, mentions a great plan that Zaros has and that the players are going to play a major part in. The great plan is preordained and essential. When asked what Zaros wants, Soren responds, "Who am I to say what Zaros wants? His goals are beyond your and my understanding, but know this. He does not seek petty revenge or endless war. This means that Zaros' primary goal may not be to seek revenge on Zamorak, and that Zaros does not necessarily want another god war on Gielinor." During the events of the World Wakes, the key followers of Zaros gathered together once again following the opening of Guthix's resting place, wherein dwells the god of balance himself. After letting the different god followers skirmish battle with one another, clearing the way to the heart of the temple, the Zarosians reveal themselves and their plan to bargain with Guthix, persuading him to allow Zaros to return. The plan, however, goes awry when one of their number, Sliske, kills Guthix with the Staff of Armadil, in turn causing the destruction of the edicts. Although this was not the original plan of the majority of the Zarosians, speaking to Azanadra afterwards reveals that with the edicts gone, thus allowing the gods to return to Gielinor, events can begin to be set in motion with regards to Zaros' own return. It should also be noted that Zaros has several powers which some of the gods actually don't have, and one was to abandon his body as a whim, for when he was weakened and banished by the Staff of Armadil in the hands of Zamorak at the end of the Second Age. This means he is incorporeal now, which makes him weaker, and he needs to find a host body in order to return to Runescape. So, I wonder who this host body could be. It could just be a random stranger, and Zaros could very well return. However, could we, the player, play a major role in the return of Zaros? Is Zaros going to take control of us? We'll have to find out in the quests coming up this year. But with that said, that is everything you need to know about Zaros during his time in the Second Age, including some extra bits of information I thought were quite interesting. So, hopefully you all enjoyed that, and I will catch you all later. Have a good one.